Welcome to Waypoint Connect, our first ever Waypoint podcast. Big celebration, guys. It's so awesome. And as we would expect, when we got ready to go live, we had challenges with the internet. Every weird kind of thing was going wrong, but we're here. I know people were frantically messaging, where do I find this podcast? How can I be part of it? So I hope as we're connecting and talking here that you guys are getting connected, being part of this experience. So if you're in the comment section in Facebook, feel free to and take that opportunity to tell us where you're tuning in from. I know people are taking their lunch now and tuning in from work. That's the whole idea of why we're doing it at 1 o'clock, so that you can take a break, get some input, and be ready for the week that's ahead. So it's my privilege to be with you this afternoon as we get practical with new beginnings, talk about how to do it, how to address that. And I'm looking forward to our guest next week as we unpack this further, get their perspective on how did they wrestle with this whole concept of changing old habits and starting a new beginning. So let me see if there's anybody in the comment section. Feel free to give a shout out there and connect with the people that we're talking to. Get feedback from you. We'd love to hear from you what it is that you think. So we've used the topic of new beginnings, leveraging on from that and asking the question, well, practically, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do I approach this whole thing in my life of making a new beginning? And the challenge is we've all had New Year's resolutions where we said, this year is going to be different. This is what I'm aiming and planning on doing. And how many people have not paid gym subscriptions without ever once setting foot in the gym in the hope that something will change? And we're talking about practically, how do we address that? How do we change that? And how do I get my life to move in the right direction? What I'd like to encourage you with is this simple concept that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one single step. So always keep that in mind. It doesn't matter how far it is that you need to move towards, go towards. At the end of the day, what you need to do is just take that one step that's going to move you towards your goal. It starts with that one single step, and you're able to move forward on your goal. Right, so let's have a look at some of the comments. Okay. Because I can't see any comments on my side. Let me just refresh this. So Leanne, so great that you're with us. Silke, I know you're around the corner, but it's also great to have you with us. And Jax, so great to hear from you as well. Thanks for joining us. Right, so here's the key focus. If we look at where we want to be, we can so easily be overcome with the challenge that we need to face to get to that goal. And I think that's part of that whole idea with take that first step. Is just focus on that first step. Don't worry about the distance that needs to be traveled, the logistics that's required to solve the problems that's going to come along your way. Just solve this first problem of how do I take this first step towards my life goal. And if we talk to people about taking that first step and making that change, the first thing and the most common thing that people come up with is this whole idea that it's hard. It's difficult and it's hard. And of course it is. We know it is. But, very important, I saw a quote recently that gave me a completely new perspective on this whole concept. So let me share this quote with you. Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard. Obesity is hard. Being fit is hard. Choose your hard. Being in debt is hard. Being financially disciplined is hard. Choose your hard. Communication is hard. Not communicating is hard. choose your hard. Life will never be easy. It will always be hard. But we can choose our hard. Pick wisely. And for me, personally, let me just share from my experience, the big goal for me for this year, that there's a lot of goals, but the one that I'm going to be sharing with you guys and talking around specifically is fitness, health and fitness. And if we take that as a practical example and say, well, it's hard to go to the gym, it's hard to exercise. When I read this quote, it just completely flipped the script on that. The fact that you're overweight, and then talking about myself, it's hard. It doesn't happen by itself. You have to go and sit there and open up that pack of chips and watch the third season of The Office. It's hard. It doesn't come easy. It's not, oh, I just fell into obesity. No, you put effort into be obese, so now own up to it and pick your heart. It comes with its own set of unique challenges and problems. So that just gave me a new perspective on that and said, well, whatever choice I make, there are going to be consequences for that choice. So it's up to me to decide what consequences I want to live with, and it empowers us. It helps us to take that responsibility back for our lives and say, this is the outcome that I want, and I'm putting the effort in to move me towards that point in my life. Now, there's a quote, if any of you have listened to any of Basil Harris's talks, you would hear him often use this quote. And it took me a while to figure out what it is that Basil is on about. What is it that Basil is talking about? And Basil's quote is this. He says, unless the pain of remaining the same is not greater than the pain of change, you will not change. And linking back to our practical example again, there are health challenges with being obese. And unless the challenges of remaining the same doesn't get worse than the challenges of changing, you will not change. Now, a lot of people will say you need to be in a difficult space to really make those changes, and this speaks into it. It needs to get uncomfortable for you to make that decision, to put the effort in place that it's going to require to make life change. So it's better to make that decision yourself than to have life force you to make that decision. And that brings us to our third point, which is the fact that it starts with a decision. You need to make a decision. It doesn't happen by itself. You need to purposefully sit down and make a decision about that. Silke, I just love the fact that you pick up on that Office reference. If you guys haven't watched it, be brave and push through the first season of it. But it starts with a decision. And I've heard it said often that the difference between a dream and a goal is the fact that a goal has got a date to it. And that's the only difference. If we just keep on throwing good ideas around in the air, it's fantastic, but it's never going to be anything other than a dream. But as soon as we start putting a date to that and say, by that date, I want to achieve this, then suddenly it becomes a goal, because there's a plan that needs to be put in place in order for us to get there and achieve that. So start today, decide what area it is in your life that you need to make a change, and make that decision to make that change. Figure out what it's going to look like when you achieve it. Start with the end in mind. Look at what it is that you want to achieve, put a date to it, and work back from there. What is the plan that needs to be put in place for you to actually achieve that? And there's one other thing that I want to highlight to you, is the whole concept of inertia. Inertia is a term that we find in physics, and it's when an object is standing still, and it's the energy required to get that object to move. The initial amount of energy is a lot more. You need to put a lot of energy in to get that object moving. But once it gets moving, then suddenly you have momentum in your favor, and the amount of energy required to keep that moving becomes less. So what I'm saying to you in a sense is that even though that's physics, those same principles apply in your life. When you make that decision to make that change, it's going to be extremely difficult initially for you to make that change. But push through, especially when it comes down to exercising. The first week is the worst. The first month is extremely difficult. But then by the second month, it starts to get easier. And here's the key concept that comes into play. Because when you've made that decision to go running, when you get to that point at the end of the day where you have to go running, that's your time that you set out for you, you've won half the battle because you've already made the decision to go running. It's not a discussion that you have with yourself. Do I feel like running? Do I have the energy for running? What did this day take out of me? Have I got the capacity to do it? I've had such a busy day. You don't get sucked into those conversations with yourself, and trust me, you will lose that conversation with yourself. The decision's made. You just go and you go run. And then you start to also see the benefits of putting the effort in that's moving you towards your goal. And that's the difficulty for us when we start off this journey, is we're so disconnected from what we envision, what we see, and where we start, that it's difficult for us to connect the benefits of the results that we will get when currently we have no results. And that's those initial stages that discipline is required to push through to be able to make that change that you want to see. And something else that's going to help you is forming a habit. And that links in with what we've been talking about now. It takes anything from 18 to 254 days to form a habit. Luckily, it's not usually 254 days. Usually we're talking about 21 days. And that's why it's a good idea to stick to something for 2 months, because by then a new habit would have been formed. And here's the challenge with habits. We've got good habits and bad habits. A habit by itself isn't intrinsically good or bad. The outcome and the result of that action or thinking or doing is what makes it good or bad. So we need to take stock in our lives and say, well, what are the good habits and what are the bad habits? Let's start getting rid of some of the bad habits. And it's going to take effort to get rid of it. Just as it takes effort to form a new habit, it takes effort to unlearn a habit. But the benefit is that energy that you've put in to form a habit then starts working in your favor. And that's where that momentum thing starts kicking in. It's all of these things that start to give you momentum towards achieving your goal. And the last thing that I can leave with you, that you can use in your arsenal of moving towards your goal, is people. Use people. Surround yourself with positive people, people that are struggling with the same thing and moving in the right direction, not struggling with the same thing and moving in the wrong direction. That's called menjo met die varke en dan menjo met die semels en dan vreet die varke jou. And that's not what we're talking about. For us, it's about what Craig Groeschel always talks about. He says, show me your friends and I show you your future. And somebody else has said about friends that you are the average of your 5 best friends. So look at your 5 best friends, you are the average of them. And if you look at what their marriages are like, financially, how they're doing, how healthy they are, how happy they are, you are the average of your 5 friends. So if we want to really make a difference in our lives, we need to start maybe surrounding ourselves with different people. And along those lines, that's, I think, part of why our run and walk and talk interest groups for Waypoint have grown so big and drastically over the course of the past few months, not just because health is a big topic, but also because of towards achieving my goal, I'm surrounding myself with people that are already doing it, people that are on their way of doing it, people that I can relate with when I tell them how sore my muscles are, because they understand that. And Benny's just commented in our comment section, thank you for that, Benny, that if you're in a space where you want to start this process of getting fitter, and it's a big physical challenge for you and it's a mental challenge, and often the mental challenge is much bigger than the physical challenge, Benny's available to plug you into a program, to give you that physical program to support you, but also the people that are needed to help and support you during this time. So feel free to connect with Benny around that topic. So surround yourself with those people that are going to help to move you in the right direction. And when we put these things in place, we're going to see how we're going to move forward on those goals that we set out for ourselves. Now understand that I've used getting fit as a template because it's a hot topic for me. I haven't got a lot of time left. I need to put the effort in now. No, I'm just joking. But in all honesty, why wait when it's within your power to do it now? But I'm just using that as a template. You can decide for yourself what it is in your life that you need to change. And it can be a physical thing like exercise, but it can also be an emotional thing. I want to be emotionally more healthy and more happy. Then ask yourself the question, what good habits do I have in terms of moving me forward towards my goal? And what habits do I have that are negative habits that I need to get rid of? Who are the people that's going to help me move forward on this that I need to surround myself with? And who are some of the relationships that I need to move away from and walk out of that are not helping me towards that goal? And it's actually become a stumbling block. That's why community is so important. We can never achieve success by ourselves and on our own. And when we effectively connecting with people in that way, we actually see just momentum added to what it is that we're doing. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. And Benny's just confirmed that there's a social group for the people that want to take it easy. You might be scared if Benny trains you that you're going to be doing the comrades. Well, nothing stands in your way apart from you, but it doesn't have to be. There's a lot of social groups that Benny can plug you into that'll make this transition and journey easy. Remember, it starts with a single step. So it could be that goal of socially walking, running, and then taking it from there and upping your game. But apply these principles to every part of your life. Even apply it to your spiritual aspect of your life. Ask yourself the question, what are the practical things that I can do that can move me in the right direction in that space? And our challenge is, as people, we don't put the effort and the time in to think about these things. And when we think about it, we put a lot of time in planning projects at work and planning various aspects of our life. But the question is, how much effort do we put in our personal lives? Assessing them, evaluating them, and setting out a plan for success that's going to help you be successful in life. So make sure that you plug into that. It's been really great for me to chat with you guys, hang out and have a coffee. Obviously, my coffee came from the Warehouse Roasters at Hunter's, and I must say it's one of the best coffee and cappuccino I've had. Right now for me it's a double shot cappuccino. I'm loving it. Kobus is here, probably one of the best baristas and definitely the best host that you will find. So come and hang out with Kobus during the day when you got time. He's looking forward to connecting with you. Guys, it's so great. I enjoyed my time with you, and I'm looking forward to our next episode next week, Thursday, 1 o'clock. So feel free to share questions that you have that might lead up to that week with us, and we'll address some of those questions that you might have next week as we start, and then join us as we continue this topic, and join us for our live guest in studio next week. That's going to help unpack and share his journey on how he's gone through this process of taking that first step and changing and impacting his life. Right, so I just got a question from Deerwald. He says, how do we determine the most important goal to focus on? So my view on that would be, if we look at all the things we can do, because if we start this process, there would be a lot of things that we can list. Look at that list, evaluate them. There are usually, if you've got 10 principles or areas to focus on or things to do, if you take those 10, 20% of those would give you 80% of the result. It's a weird principle, but it works. So evaluate what it is that you can do on the basis of not necessarily what's the easiest, but what will give me the best results. And sometimes the best results could be the quickest results. It depends on where you are. But look at what will give you the best results and focus on those things first and unpack them. Deelwald, I hope that answered your question. And if you need to speak to somebody, just run a few ideas past them. We're always available. We're always there to connect with you. So use the Waypoint app. Download the Waypoint app. You'll find the contact details on there. You can also contact us through the Waypoint app. Go to the website, find the contact details there. And I just see Tian walking past, and he's so excited to hear from you guys. So feel free to reach out and connect with somebody. You don't have to go through these things on your own. It's a lie that we're facing these things on our own, and it's our problems, and I have to find solutions for them. So raise your hand and say, I need help with this. I need somebody to have coffee with me and unpack a few ideas with me. And feel free to do that. So Benny's just, for those of you that are wondering, where is this Warehouse Roasters that they have this wonderful coffee and great host? That's at the opposite the Hunters Spa at 677 Cape Road, the corner of Birchall Road, and it's Cape Road and Birchall Road, and it's in the Nebula building. You also see the Waypoint and Noosa logo and Trilogic logo up on the building at the front. So pop in there. Kobus is ready to make you that special kind of coffee that we all need and need to start our day off properly. All right, guys and ladies, it's been great hanging out with you, and I'm looking forward to next week, Thursday. So join us again for episode 2 on New Beginnings with Waypoint Connect.